Look, I'm going to say this right now, okay? Just for clarification, I do not hate this person. I do not dislike this person. I just don't understand people that do this all the time. You know, people that make these type of comments towards my creations, towards my original, whatever you want to say, original version, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, everyone gets inspiration from something. I got my inspiration from many things. This is also his account, by the way. And the reason I'm saying this and I'm making this video is to address the fact that there's so many accounts that will sit there and for some weird reason will sit there and be like, act like they're smarter, better, or more intelligent because they sit there and say that my character, I just made a character and my OC absolutely slams your OC and to the freaking ground and you have nothing on me. I absolutely destroy your OC. They act like by saying that they're pointing out something about my character creations. And it's like, look, I spend a lot of time, hours and hours, drawing these characters, coming up with new ideas, trying to establish something with this creation. And most of the time, I try to ignore these comments and I don't really see that much of a bothering about it. I'm just saying this because for the longest time, I got in this weird criticism about my creations. And that criticism is that the characters I create are somehow too overpowered, too strong, too fast, too much. All this gibberish, in my opinion. All gibberish. You know why I say it's all gibberish? Is because, look, I'm not saying my creation is better than Invincible, that it's more original than Omni-Man, that it's, God tier status, it's goated. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is, by you pointing out that my creation is this and this and this and that, by saying that it's too overpowered, then you're also pointing at Invincible, right? You're also pointing at DC, Marvel, the two biggest comic creation, companies of all time that have inspired plenty of characters from independent comic companies, and I'm going to say this right now, okay? It's a really dumb criticism, and I try to say this as well. People that comment this act like I don't give any backstory to these characters. And if you don't see a backstory in that post, most of the time it's because I just don't have a backstory yet, and I decided to draw it out of, artists would understand. You just kind of draw things that comes to mind, whatever comes to mind. Sometimes you just draw it, right? Inspiration. Sometimes that happens with some of my characters, okay? And I don't have a backstory just yet, but I have them, drawn, and I'm going to do something in the future with it, right? But there is plenty of characters that have a backstory. I've made posts on that have backstories, reasonings, foreshadowing, reasons why they do what they do sometimes, showing their faults, their lies, their troubles, what they went through, so on and so forth, giving them character. Now, I understand that some people are going to say, well, it might have character, but what is that all going to matter if he could just one-shot the MC or one-shot a bunch of characters? Well, here's another thing, okay? I'm going to say this right now to also push away some of the people that might criticize my more vile and straight up terrible characters in terms of what they did. I'm going to say this now as a defense for that. I do not proclaim that any of those characters that do those things that I've created, that I, approve of. I don't approve of that. That's why 100% of the time, you're going to see if these characters go forward and, get established in the future, per se. If it gets more expanded on, 100%, they will eventually die in a really horrible way. Just for clarification, all the super vile characters that you probably would never like or you shouldn't like will die 100% of the time in horrible ways. For example, I created a story that talks about the cartels. Not the actual cartels of Mexico, but fictional cartels of Mexico, right? A different type of Mexico, to be honest with you, because these, cartel bosses and some of their men are freaking super powered, right? They're city block level, they're city levels of AP, whatever technical terms you want to use to shorten the meaning. But at the same time, there's a big thing that happens, okay, with one of these characters. His nickname is Saint Nick. It is supposed to be a mockery nickname because he is no saint. He's the complete opposite of it. He commits cannibalism, homicide, not only of elderly, but of, if you get my drift, starts with a C. He does all that terrible stuff. But guess what? The MC eventually catches up to him. And guess what happens to him? I'm not going to exactly spoil it, but it has to do something with pigs. Yes, he gets done dirty by pigs. You can put it in your head and imagine what that could be like. It's not so great. And it goes on for a week, okay? Let's just say he ends in the most mocking way and the most terrible way to go out, okay? And most of those characters in that story that are supposed to be antagonists for the MC go out in terrible ways, okay? And I'm going to say this too about that same MC. That MC is supposed to, at the end of that story, after all that violence he committed, he is supposed to eventually become friends with Gigante. Gigante is the giant of Thailand, right? He is Vietnamese. And basically, they become friends, to put it short. And the MC that had all that violence happen gets a retrospective look on his life by becoming friends and getting some peace in his life. And slowly starts, calming down more, basically atoning for the sins he did make, right? Even though he did this all out of revenge and justice, in some senses, at the end of the day, my beliefs are that even though he did some good things for some people, and he got rid of all of the cartels in Mexico, fictionally speaking, it was still murder, right? Now, some people are going to say that are not of Christian faith, not of any faith at all, will sit there and say that, he did the right thing anyway. Well, here's the thing. Even though he got rid of all those cartels, there's one thing he wasn't able to accomplish. That's one thing he failed at. And that was establishing a new idea to replace the old idea. So technically, there is potential that the cartels will just reappear again anyway. They'll come back to life in some other new manner, right? And I'll say this as well, right? I also wanted to show people that cartels should not be glorified at all, okay? The idea of it is not glorification. The point is, it is terrible to grow up in those situations, to be around those situations, and to even imagine those situations that all different types of people of Mexico go through on a daily basis. It's supposed to show the harm that these cartels will cause, okay? And I'm going to say this as well, just for clarification. I'm not saying you should just go get revenge out of nowhere either. Like I said, the whole point of that story was just mainly to show how terrible it can be, right? But also, I'm going to say this as well. I have many different types of stories that I have in line to make in the future and eventually expand upon. And I'm going to say this as well. A lot of the ideas I do make are in infancy. They are not done. So if you think you've had me on some point here, you don't, okay? At the end of the day, this guy, he said, oh, his OC is stronger than mine. Buddy, I looked into your account. You have no OC to speak of. I even looked on your Lemon account that's connected to TikTok. You have no post. No OC. You haven't linked in Instagram. You haven't messaged me in your OC. You haven't even you could have put an image in my comment section showing your OC. Give me some backstory. Do something with it. I don't understand these people. Just do something with it. What are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense what these people do. It's like, come on. If you're going to sit there and criticize me and be like, oh, my OC annihilates your OC all the time, blah, blah, blah. Well, pull up some evidence, okay? Pull up some fates, whatever you want to say. Pull up something, man. Let's just say this is just a rant of mine. I just wanted to get this off my mind because I have a lot of time on my hands. So, thank you for listening. Thank you if you did listen. That's key number one. And also, God bless you, your family, your children, and anyone you come across. Amen.